1, 0.
Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, which means it's time for Monday Night Nerd. My name is Corp Cosplay. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. It is going to be a great show. We're going to talk all about Metallica. We're going to rank the Metallica albums from worst to best, 12 to 1, and we're going to have a great night. Hope you're doing well. It is another really, really warm day here in Southern Ontario. It is, I don't know, it feels like it's 50 degrees right now. I am sweating buckets all day up here working, and now I've got to do a show. But I'm super excited because this is my favorite band. I'm so excited to do these 12 albums, and I'm excited to talk about some other stuff. Unfortunately, we're going to kind of hit a downward slide at the beginning, because we unfortunately have to talk about some people that aren't with us. But then we're going to talk all about Fantastic Four, and then we're going to talk all about Metallica. If you guys are new here, my name is Corp Cosplay. This is my podcast, Monday Night Nerd. We talk about nerdy things. We talk about wrestling, movies, podcasts, wrestling, music, movies, cosplay, and a whole lot more. I greatly appreciate you tuning in. Anybody watching on TikTok, I greatly appreciate you tuning in as well. If you want to be a part of this conversation, hop over to YouTube. That is where I will be answering any questions and talking to you guys about the list. I hate doing this part of the show, but unfortunately we kind of had a really bad week when it comes to people passing, so we kind of have to do it. I used to do a segment here when we first started the show called Thanks for the Memories, where we talked to different celebrities, or talked about different celebrity passings, and unfortunately I kind of killed that because it just wasn't a fun thing to do. But we unfortunately have to do it tonight because we lost some people in the entertainment world over the past week since the show. We're going to start with the one that I know that I'm, the least familiar with, and then we're going to work up. Malcolm Jamal Warner, unfortunately, from Cosby Show fame, is no longer with us. That one kind of came as a shock. If you unfortunately don't know, he passed away last week drowning. He was swimming with, I believe, some family members, and the undertow took him under. Famous for the Cosby Show. Again, this is one that's not going to be, I don't have a lot to say about him. I'm not a big Cosby Show fan. I know of the show. I know, as Andre just said in chat, Theo. I'm just not a big Cosby Show fan. If you ask me, where do I know Malcolm Jamal Warner from? Honestly, the first thing that comes to my head is the YouTube channel Red Letter Media does a show called Best of the Worst, where they take really bad videos, and he was starring in one of them called Show Off, I think it was, where he's talking about bad party tricks. I've seen that episode more than I've probably seen any Cosby Show episode, but either way, I know he had an impact as one of Huxtable's sons, so it is really sad to see that happen. That really, really sucks, because I know how much he meant to a generation growing up with the Cosby Show, but unfortunately I'm not of that era, so I can't really, it sucks, but it's just not, it doesn't hit me as hard as it probably hits a lot of other people. Funny enough, we are doing an episode on Metallica, so we obviously have to talk about Ozzy. We lost Ozzy last week, which to the metal community was, one of, if not the biggest metal legends of all time. He recently performed his last show with Black Sabbath. You can kind of tell if you've seen that concert, he was struggling, like really struggling. There is somebody who has taken the show and has put it on YouTube and has just cut out the vocals, and there's no backing track. It's just his vocals. He's struggling. So hearing that and knowing what happened a couple weeks later, last week, it makes sense that he's really, really fighting. I'm glad he got to do that final concert with the band, and it was actually kind of a perfect send-off for him, because literally almost everybody in the metal music world was there for that final show, so they all got to see him one last time. So I think that was it was really nice to see that. Alex said in chat, apparently it was all for charity. Yes, 100%. It was for charity. A whole bunch of charities got a whole bunch of donations from that. And Billy Corgan, who was at the show, he has gone on record saying this should be an annual thing. This should be Ozfest should come back as this. And it should be a day of everyone playing something Black Sabbath, something Ozzy, and doing a day and doing the exact same thing every year as a tribute to Ozzy and donating all the proceeds to charity. And I love that idea. I think that would be an incredible idea, and I hope they go with that. I know since then there's been like everybody in that area wants to name everything after Ozzy. I think it's pretty close that town is going to be known as Ozzy at some point if everybody gets their vote in. But yeah, like, I'm a metal fan. I am not a giant Black Sabbath fan. Obviously, I'm a Metallica fan. I'm a metal fan. I love tons of metal bands. If you saw my Instagram post earlier, I was looking at my hard drive last night, and I was kind of having a music night and just listening to random songs. I have 32,000 songs in my hard drive, and that is not just metal. Obviously, that's tons of different genres, but most of it is metal. But I'm not a giant Black Sabbath fan. I'm not a giant Ozzy fan, but I am more of an Ozzy fan than Black Sabbath. Just because, again, same with Malcolm Jamal Warner, that was a different generation, and I respect it and I love it, but I am more of an Ozzy fan. Like, I liked Blizzard of Oz. I love No More Tears. I love those albums more than the Black Sabbath stuff, even though it is great and I have nothing wrong with it. In fact, I was thinking about it. One of my first TikTok videos, funny enough, was one of those, you press the button and it sort of spins and it goes through a bunch of different bands. And when it lands on a band, you have to take a member of that band and make your own sort of super group. So whatever the first band is, you can put them as pick the drummer or pick the guitarist or whatever. Famously, I got to the end of it and I had a vocalist and it ended at Black Sabbath. And I said Ronnie James Dio. I didn't say Ozzy because I'm a big Dio fan, so I went that way and I got a lot of hate online for it. But personally, when it came to the way I'd built the band, Ozzy's voice wouldn't work for it. Dio's would. So that was just when I thought of that, I was like, I guess I like that Dio years a little more. No offense to Ozzy, love him. But I mean, let's be honest. He rode hard on his body for so many years that we were lucky to get him as long as we did. Like, there were times in the past where it was close. So hearing that he made it this long and he kind of got to go out on his own terms, he got one last show with Black Sabbath, like, you can't really ask for much more. I think the only thing that really hurts is that Sid from Slipknot, who is now engaged with Kelly, his daughter, he proposed to Kelly at the final show, and I know they were trying to get that running as quick as possible so Ozzy could walk her down the aisle, and unfortunately that's not going to happen. So that sucks, and I feel really bad for Sharon. I feel really bad for Jack and Kelly and their other son, I believe, and the whole metal community, because I know everyone's kind of sad to see it. I thankfully got to see that last show just online, but it was really nice to see, and I'm glad the whole community got to get together and say one final goodbye to Ozzy, because I know he loved it, and it was great to see as a metal fan. Have you already ranked them? I have not. We just started the show, Tristan. In 9 minutes, I have not ranked all the shows already. We will be getting to them, though. Give me a second. We got to say some goodbyes. I got to give a review, and then we will get to the reviews. Lastly, one that hits a little harder with me because I am a lifelong wrestling fan. However, it does have an asterisk next to it, and that is Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan passed away Thursday, and this is a tough one for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. Hulk Hogan was the face of a generation of wrestling fans. And over the past few years, if you've not been in the wrestling world or don't keep up with media, there have been some things that Hulk Hogan has said that I will not repeat here on the podcast. You can do a Google search. There has been some people and some races and some other things that have... Hogan has said some things that he shouldn't have. And he's said some lies that he shouldn't have. So the later years of Hogan are definitely a place where there has been a lot of criticism. It's tough, and especially it's tough, and I'm not saying I'm the outlier, but it's tough for me because, first of all, I'm not a Hogan fan. I was not a Hulkamaniac because I wasn't a wrestling fan at that point. I started watching wrestling in 97, and that was not the peak of Hulk Hogan. That was Hogan in the NWO. Now, did I love Hogan in the NWO? 100%. I put on my Instagram stories when I was like 9, when I first became a fan of his. I was down in Florida with my mom, and I found a lightning bolt bandana like Hogan would wear, and I bought that to look like Hogan. I have a pair of like cargo pants that I hang out with that are black with lightning bolts down it, kind of like Hogan wore, because I kind of like that look. So to say I'm not a Hogan fan at all, I'm not, but I'm just not a hardcore Hogan fan. I do respect his level of work. I do respect that he was the face of a generation. I do respect that we would not be wrestling fans out today the way they are now. The business would not be what it is today without Hulk Hogan. But we can't ignore the last few years of his career. And I think wrestling fans specifically know this feeling very well because of other passings that have happened. Specifically, the Chris Benoit tragedy, and if you're not a wrestling fan and you forgot, in around 2006, 2007, Canadian wrestler Chris Benoit, who was with the WWE and was recently their world champion, went home one night and took his own life, took his wife's life, and took his son's life, which was really crazy because the night that it happened, it came out as just someone broke in, and everyone kind of had this outpouring of support, like someone did this to them. And then as the night was going on and they were doing a live tribute show, it changed in the dynamic of the show of like, oh, this is something a lot worse. Alex, I'm going to say no on that one. I know that's kind of what's been going around. It was not roid rage. For those, I didn't want to go down this, but you did bring it up. There is a wrestler that was with the WWE named Christopher Nowinski. He is a Harvard graduate. He now runs a concussion type organization that looks into head trauma. They were the only ones that were allowed to look at Chris Benoit's brain after everything had happened. His father gave him all of the things to look at, and he had so much trauma to his brain. They were saying he was the most traumatic brain injury that they'd ever looked at. So it wasn't roid rage. It was he had taken so many hits to the head that was what did it. It wasn't the roid rage, although there are a lot of people who say that is. Clinically, though, no. He had a really destroyed brain. That's why everything happened the way it is. But going back to Hogan, yeah, it's rough for me because, like I said, I love Hogan as a wrestling fan because I would not be a wrestling fan if it wasn't for him. The business wouldn't be what it is. However, there is an asterisk. It is sad to know that the last time he was on Raw was the beginning of the Netflix era and he got booed out of the building. Was his political views part of that? Probably played a factor. But as a wrestling fan, I still have to say, I do respect what he has done for the business. And I know he has done a ton of charity work and Make-A-Wish stuff back in the day. So I can't say I am, I had people literally reach out to me who were like, how happy are you? And I'm like, dude, it's been like 3 hours. Chill. So, and I know I've seen a lot of hate online for it, but personally, it sucks. I've been a lot more emotional and a lot more like, holy crap, with other passings than this, but it's still, Hogan's Hogan, and I get it. Andre said, I never liked Hogan, and that goes back decades. It is what it is. Exactly, and I get if people don't like Hogan for many different reasons. 100% understand it. It's still a father. It's still an ex-husband. It's still a friend of many people. Like, you can have every feeling in the world. It's still a human being who passed away. Like, he has 2 kids. He has grandkids. Like, that's still a grandfather that's not around anymore. Like, that's important to think about. So, Hogan, Ozzy, Malcolm, we miss you. We used to do this on the podcast back when I first started this. Thank you for the memories. You will sadly be missed. Now that we're down and bummed, let's quickly jump into a review before we get into the Metallica reviews. Folks, it has been a jam-packed month here of superhero movies. We saw Superman. I saw Superman twice, and now we have seen Fantastic Four. The newest Marvel movie is out in theaters. It has been out for a weekend. Thursday it came out. I was there opening night, as always, with my buddies. And what did I think about it? Well, it was good. It was really good. I will say it's a really good movie. It is one of the few Marvel movies that you can go in completely blind, not know anything about any other Marvel property, and you will not be lost. That is really good to see, because I know over the recent few months and few years, it has been kind of homework to watch a Marvel property. And even that's me, who's got an entire bookshelf here of comics and graphic novels, and comics and graphic novels here. Even I'm having to do some research before going to some of these movies. I enjoyed it. Like, it wasn't, there was no point in the movie that I was laugh out loud laughing, but there were some funny moments. It was an overall good story. I originally, if you've seen the podcast before, you know I had some criticisms about them bringing Franklin Richards, their son, into this property so early. That's not spoiling anything. It's in the trailer. I think it works. I think they could have saved it maybe for the next movie. I don't think it was a main plot point, but I think they could have still done well without having that and had it later. But overall it was good. Pedro Pascal was good. The entire cast was good. They were all solid. This was probably the most family Fantastic Four movie that I've watched. The other ones, the 2000 ones, and then we're not going to talk about Fan Four Stick. They were good, and Alex in chat says the old one was better, but this was good. I get that, and there are parts of that movie that I do enjoy. I enjoy the original, the 2000s one for the corniness that they are, but I thought this was fine. I thought they had I didn't think there was anything wrong. There was 2 end credit scenes. I'm obviously not going to compare this to Superman because I told you last week and the week before, I love Superman. It is one of my favorite comic book movies, so there's no comparison between the two. But if you want to get back into Marvel, this is probably your best bet because you don't need to know anything else. You can kind of just jump in, go balls deep into it, and you will enjoy it. It was a very fun time. The acting was good. The special effects were fine. You will have a good time. Andre in chat says, I liked it a lot, but like Soups, it's just fun, feel good watch, gonna watch it again tomorrow. Cool, I'm glad you're going to see it again. Yeah, I'm not running to see it again, but if I had a group of friends that were like, I kind of want to watch Fantastic Four, I'd go again. Like, I really would. It wasn't a bad movie. It was fine. It's kind of tough because of how much I love Superman and how close they are. I literally have watched 2 of them and 1 of this. It's still a good movie, though. I think it's good, and I'm excited to see where they're going to go with this going into the future. So, yeah, overall, good movie. If you're still here, I greatly appreciate it. If you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, it means a lot to me. If you guys are on TikTok, I greatly appreciate you guys hitting like button and all those things. If you want to be part of the conversation, we are live over on YouTube, as you can see in that little box thing I made down there. Hop over to YouTube on Myers Corp Cosplay. You guys can be a part of the conversation. We're going to talk all about Metallica in a few minutes, and we're going to talk my list from 12 to 1. Folks, we got to talk about sponsor before we jump into the podcast. Sponsor, as always, you know it. It's the same every week, but it's the most important one, and that is my beautiful, loving, amazing, incredible wife. She is the sponsor, and that's not me sucking up. That is because, honestly, I would not be the person I am without her. I really wouldn't be that person without her. I would be someone that somebody does not want to deal with, is a good way to put it. Seriously, I love her. I hope she's having fun tonight. She's out with some friends watching some anime. Yeah. Love you, hun. You will always be my sponsor. Alex said, I want a standalone hot girl. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind a standalone hot girl movie. I wouldn't mind a standalone movie for any of the Justice Gang. I think all three of them. I think Mr. Terrific should get one right now, and I think Guy Gardner should be one too. But that's just because I'm a diehard Lantern fan. But yeah, all of them did good. Okay, let's talk about Metallica. Now, why are we doing this? Well, if you don't know, I'm a diehard Metallica fan. I have been a fan for many, many years. I recently went to the Toronto show. Both Toronto shows. I spent $5,000 on the experience to meet the band or meet two members of the band. I got a whole video on that here on the channel. You can click on that after. And it got a lot of love. I got a lot of great feedback from that video of Metallica fans, and I got a lot of followers because of it. I greatly appreciate anybody that's in here that follows because it means a lot. And I know that there are a big segment of the population loves Metallica, so we're going to sit here and I'm going to go through it. Here we go. Hi, Tempest. I'm just waiting to defend Saint Anger. Well, here we go. It's not number 12. We're going to go through all 12 albums. We're not going to include Lulu, the Lou Reed collaboration. That's a tough one for me to listen to, so we're not going to include that. I'm not going to include, I don't think I included the S&Ms, the symphony ones. I did not. I was going to, but those are compilations. Did not include the symphony, did not include many other like collaborations and stuff like that. This is the main releases. We are including Garage. But yeah, it's all just the main albums, including Garage, because I count that as an actual album. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm really excited to see what everyone thinks about this list. There are some that are different than others. Oh, I also want to stress, this is a band that I have loved since the 2000s. I am not a lifelong fan of the band. So if anyone is watching this and is like, why don't you put this because it was the best album in the 80s and I saw them live on, in 1987 and it only cost me $5. I'm sorry, I was like 1 at that point. So chill out if that's the comments in the comment box. I've been a fan since like 2000. Give me a break. Give me a break. I'm not going to get any more of it. Let's jump into the list because that's why you're here. Let's jump into number 12, and I don't think this is much of a shock for anyone. 72 Seasons is number 12. Now, this has got an asterisk next to it. This, and there's one other album that have an asterisk next to this. This album is their most recent album. And this is, okay, so here's where the asterisk is there. I think every individual has what I call the vacuum years in their life. And what the vacuum years to me is the time in your life that you just vacuum every bit of music. And that becomes your little internal makes you happy playlist. That can be a very small playlist. That can be a very big playlist. This is their latest album. I am 37. I really do not have the time to sit down and listen to an album anymore to the degree that I used to. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I have 32,000 songs that I have gotten over the years. That included, and I am not ashamed to say this because I'm surprised people didn't do it more, I used to go to the library, would rent hundreds of CDs, and throw them on my backpack, bring them home, throw them on my computer, rip them, bring them back to the library. I got a lot of music from that, and at that age, I would just sit in my bedroom and, as Saliva would say, let the stereo blaze because that was my life. I just listened to music so much. This album is probably the least listened to album of Metallica's because I just don't have the time. Now, does that mean it's a bad album? No. But even what I have listened to, and I've listened to more of it because of the show recently, it's got some hits and misses. I think, Lux Eterna is a classic. That's the single off of it. That's one of their best ones. Room of Mirrors is one of my favorite songs off that album, if not my favorite song off that album. Inamorata, however the hell you pronounce that last song, that is an incredible song. I think that's one of James's best songs in a while. Tempest in chat says, I don't know, the title track was kind of banger, along with The Darkness Had a Sun. See, that's a song that I didn't like on the album, but I liked it live. I thought that was a great song live. And again, I don't hate this album. It's just I haven't had enough of it. And it's just not something I've been able to sit down and listen to over and over and over again and get the feel for the album. It's literally just been one song here and there. And I do understand when artists say, like, we package this album to have like a story, or you're supposed to listen to songs in a certain order. I get that. And I feel like because I've only listened to a song here and there and it's been all out of whack, it just isn't the same. Alex in chat says, LOL, I did Napster. I'll be completely honest, I did too. When I first became a Metallica fan, I downloaded so much stuff off of Napster, and I just loved it. But I loved it so much, I wanted to contribute to the artist, so I then went out and bought all of their CDs. And I've bought a billion Metallica things since then. So I've more than made up for the money I took for those first like 2 albums that I got off Napster. But yeah, nothing wrong with this album. It's just not my favorite, mostly because I think it's kind of hit and miss on a couple tracks, and I just haven't had enough time to really deep dive and have that imprint of this is an incredible album like the others have. Also, at the end of each song, I'm going to say what song I like to play, what my favorite song to play is, because I am, for those who don't know, I know how to play drums. I play drums more of a cardio workout type thing than actually play. That's why I don't really tape them and put them online. I have an electric kit in the other room, and I don't plug it in. I literally just put in headphones and just go through the motions. And I can play most Metallica songs, so every album I'm kind of going to say which one's my favorite to play. Room of Mirrors is my favorite, and that is the one I like to play. I do like playing Lux Eterna. It's got a good rhythm to it, and it's got I like just fast songs for Lars, but Room of Mirrors is really fun to play. So that's my number one off the album. So we're starting off with 72 Seasons. I felt that was kind of obvious. Let's move up to the next one. And it's got the same type of feeling, Hardwired for Self-Destruct. I think this is a better album. That's why it's number 11. But I also think this is the most complete album of the band. And what I mean by that is, in the scope of Metallica, Jason Newsted, who replaced Cliff Burton, who unfortunately passed away, Jason left just before Saint Anger. The Saint Anger record was basically recorded with Bob Rock on bass. Death Magnetic was Rob's first album, but you can kind of tell if you've watched the backstage interviews on that album, he's still trying to find his place in the band. Like they were way more accepting than they were when Jason was around, but you could tell he's still trying to sort of make his bed, so to speak. This one feels way better. It feels more what the new Metallica is when it comes to the writing, the feel of every song. This album, however, I feel is sort of runs into the problem that Load and Reload run into. And that is, this album is very front-loaded. And by that, I mean there are 12 songs on the album. The first 6 on this album are great songs. The last 6, except for Spit Out the Bone at the end, they're a little weaker. And I feel like that's the same with Load and Reload. Load is pretty much bangers across the board, except for a couple. Reload, there's a couple at the beginning, but it's not the strongest album. Like Hardwired, Atlas, Halo, great songs. And then the rest, like Savage, Murder, Man Unkind, I'm like, yeah, they're okay. They're not my favorite. But then, as Tempest says, Spit Out the Bone is an amazing song. I remember when this came out, and this was the first one that I think a lot of people were able to do listening reviews and kind of first listens and put them on YouTube. There was a channel that I was watching. I don't know what it is. I literally just watched it because the guy was going nuts over this album. And I remember watching each track, and he posted them in order, and he was excited. Then he dropped around the Savage, Murder, Man Unkind, and you could tell going into that last song, he's just like, man, like, I don't know about this album. Like, it's not really hitting me properly. And then as soon as he presses play on Spit Out the Bone, his eyes grew 3 sizes. He was so excited for that song. And I completely understand why. That last song, I don't think I've ever seen a band flip off the critics more than that song, where they're like, Metallica's really old, like they just don't do it anymore, and they're like, oh really? Spit Out the Bone. Like, that came out of nowhere on that album, and it's one of the best songs on there. So it's not my favorite. It's better than 72 Seasons, but I feel like the Savage, Murder, Man Unkind kind of take it down a notch when it comes to my favorite album. Favorite song to play, honestly, Now That We're Dead is such a fun song, and that is another song that I kind of slept on until I saw this tour when they were in Toronto, and they did the drum percussion thing during the show. That was really fun. I really enjoyed that part, and I was like, this is kind of a fun song. And then I went home and tried playing it, and I'm like, this is really fun to play too. So yeah, Now That We're Dead is actually a very fun song. So we're moving our way up. We've kind of hit the last couple now. Now we're going to get into the newer stuff, the older stuff. I mentioned this album earlier. I like this album. I loved this album when I was younger, but listening to it lately, I get why people are not a big fan of this album, and I'm interested to see how it's going to be received soon, because Metallica just re-released their big box set for Load, and they've been doing that consistently through all their albums. The next one is going to be interesting to see how the reception is, and that is Reload. This is interesting. So if you don't know the history of Metallica blew up with the Black Album, and then they toured for like 3 years consistently, just tour. And then they went to the studio and they had a whole bunch of demos. And what came out of that was Load and then Reload, which is basically side A and side B of a double discography. As I said earlier, you can kind of tell this is the B-sides. And again, I like this album growing up. There are parts of this album that are amazing, but you can kind of tell it's B-sides. This album, again, I know it well. I can tell you, like, Carpe Diem is a great song. Bad Seed's a great song. Prince Charming's a great song. But when it comes to the overall Metallica catalog, they're pretty weak album. Like, Fuel, Memory open up the record with just incredible songs that are still played live all the time. I don't think they're playing Prince Charming very often, and it's really rare to hear a lot of this album, especially a song that I personally really love, Fixer, which is the last song on the album. I think it's one of their most underrated hits. I know that it's a song, for those who don't know, the song Fixer is basically his song to his parents and God overall. James's parents were Christian Science, which means you don't go to the doctors, you just the Lord will take care of everything. And unfortunately, his mother passed away because of an illness because she didn't go to the doctor. And his dad, I believe, passed away similar things later on in life. So he's always had this conflicting feeling about all that. And this song is basically, talking about, being a voodoo doll and, when things happen in your life and you feel like you're safe and then another pin gets put in you. And I really dig that theme. I dig that album or I dig that single, but I understand why he doesn't play it that often. It's hard to talk about this album without really just ripping it apart. I don't want to. I think a lot of Metallica fans kind of view this as, it's an okay album. Again, I know all the songs because I loved this album growing up because I love Load so much, but listening to it lately, I've been like, I get it. I get why people don't like it. Favorite song to play? Devil's Dance. I love the groove in Devil's Dance. That doom, 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 doom. That's such a fun thing to play on drums. So, yeah, Devil's Dance. We're in number 10. Let's move up to number 9. Let's piss some people off. Let's make some Metallica fans really mad. Let me explain why Ride the Lightning is so low on this list. It is the songs Escape and Trapped Under Ice hurt this album a lot. Now, again, this was an album. This is Metallica's second album. This is probably one of their most famous ones. This album is pretty much all about death. It's pretty much the entire album is written about death, different song, Fade to Black, and I was expecting to see Kill 'Em All. Give it time. This was the band trying to play as they do that in Ride the Lightning as well. However, there are some departures. They are starting to get into slower songs. Fade to Black is one of his low standout of the album. It has many great songs. However, Escape and Trapped Under Ice, I feel severely hurt this album. And I feel like that's because they are such a departure from Metallica. To the point where both James and Lars have joked about it and been like, yeah, we were trying to do like Iron Maiden stuff and it just wasn't working. So when the band even says we were trying to do something that wasn't us and they were trying to almost impersonate another band, I feel like that hurts them a little more than them trying to do something crazy and outlandish and just being like, well, we tried something. It's the fact they were trying to be somebody else, I feel hurts them a little more. But yeah, like it's a great album for the songs that are great, but I feel like those two songs just hurt it too much to make it much higher. I feel like people put this on a pedestal and don't talk about those songs, which I feel is unfair. I feel if you're going to praise it, you got to praise its faults too. Favorite song to play, obviously, is Fade to Black. That is such a fun song to play. However, Ride the Lightning is also a very, very fun song to play. I'm trying to think. I think I probably played both of them equally because there's a couple concerts specifically that I've downloaded that I kind of run through those songs because it's kind of a perfect mix of the songs that I like. And I believe both of those are on both of those shows. So both are really fun to play. Sorry, Tempest. Kill 'Em All's next. Yeah, and Tempest just said, For Whom the Bell Tolls has some epic drum fills. It really does. It does. I just feel like it's a little slow. I like it a little faster. And I feel like Ride the Lightning kind of has that kickoff in the solo, which is really fun. Kill 'Em All. And that's honestly because it's their first album. And with anybody's first album, it's never as good as they're going to get. This is their first album. This was July 25th, 1983. This was when you look at the history of this album, it was a whole whack of mess. So this was a whole bunch of songs that were written by not only James and Lars and Kirk, but you also have Dave Mustaine's influence. You also have the original members of the Metallica band before Cliff came in and before Dave Mustaine jumped in from Megadeth fame. You can tell this album's a little all over the place. This is James's voice in this is a little rough. And again, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. This is your first album. I get it. But even James hates hearing his voice on this one. He is so high-pitched. It is very, wow! It is so close to Vince Neil at points that it's funny how much they hated hair metal. I'm like, man, some of those, wow, are really close to sounding like a hair metal band. This does have hits. Like 100%, I'm not going to say this is a terrible album. It's got Horseman. It's got Seek. It's got Anesthesia. It introduces the world to Cliff Burton in the best way you could have. Like, this was his swan. I feel like this is better him than Orion. Like, I think Orion's a great song, but I feel like if you're going to go, I want to know what Cliff sounds like, it's Anesthesia from, like, it's no question. I feel like James's voice really hurts him, and it's funny. I before I was even preparing this list, someone posted on TikTok, they took out Lars's drums and just put the drum track for this, and they put the drum track for Ride. And I remember watching an interview with Bob Rock when he was looking into starting with Metallica. Bob Rock, for those who don't know, is the man who produced Metallica after Injustice. So he produced the Black Album, he did Load, Reload, all the way up to Saint Anger. One of Bob Rock's biggest gripes is that he felt like that Metallica did not sound on album as good as they did live. It's a very similar critique that Kiss had when Kiss first started. They were not able to capture their live essence on an album. If anybody finds that track of Lars's drums from those two albums, the drums are weak. Like, I'm not kidding. His floor tom is a deeper sound than his bass drum. And in anything current with Metallica, that bass drum feels like it's pouncing through your chest. But listening to them, I was like, man, you guys were cool with that? Like, I completely understand hearing Bob Rock go, man, that just sounded like crap to me. And I because I'd never heard it so on its own. But if I was, I totally see it now that it sounded like dog crap. So, yeah, honestly, because it's their first album, I do give them a little bit of credit. And that's why I didn't put it lower than Ride. I will give them, this is your first time. You're putting everything on the line. There was a whole bunch of different members. It's, years and years and years of songwriting all together on your first album. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but it's not my favorite. Favorite song to play, though, is got to be it's got to be one of the two. It's either got to be Seek and Destroy or Whiplash. Whiplash I really like playing. It's really fun, really good for cardio. Seek and Destroy is the one song when people critique Lars's drums, I'm always like, dude, who gives a crap? He's making billions. When he does that break after the solo or before the solo and it's just him, I've listened to so many different versions of this song. The timing is never correct on like break and he's 1, 2, 3 and then goes into his. It's always different. So if I'm listening to the track and trying to remember what the timing is, it's always off and it bugs me so much, but that's just a personal gripe. But yeah, Kill 'Em All, number 8. Number 7, this one, I think people sleep on this. I really think people sleep on this album, and I don't feel like it's deserved. I feel like it should get way more credit. Garage Inc. And I get it. This is all covers, but man, growing up listening to this, like, I heard so many covers over the years when I was a kid. Like, my mom's a big music fan too, so there's always music playing in the background of our house. And hearing people do different versions of different songs, it was always similar to the original. Like, it was always like either it would be a little deeper or they might change a little thing. Metallica totally rearranges so many of the songs on this album. There are some that are very similar. Overkill by Megadeth or by Motorhead is Overkill. But there are so many different versions that they've tweaked and made their own. I appreciate that so much when they could have easily just been like, we like this song, we're going to play the exact same thing but with electric guitars. Like, it was really cool. And it was really cool that I don't know if it was them or if it was a third party that released the Garage Inc. album, but it was all the original songs from the album. So you had the Garage Inc. album, which was all Metallica's covers, and then I can't remember if it was Metallica or a third party that took all the originals and put them in 2 CDs as well. So that was really cool because back in the day, I didn't know a lot of the covers. I knew the Metallica version, but I didn't know the originals. It was really cool hearing the comparison between the two. Like, I love Whiskey in a Jar, both versions. I think the original is great. Turn the Page is good both ways. I think they both are great. This one has a really fun story though. When I was in high school, that's when I started liking Metallica. I became a big Metallica fan, and I started telling everybody I love Metallica. I was wearing t-shirts to high school, and my buddy Ian at the time said, "Oh, you love Metallica now?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "What have you listened to?" And I'm like, "Oh, I love Ride the Lightning. I love Master of Puppets. I love Black Album, da-da-da-da." He goes, "Have you heard the Garage Inc. album?" I'm like, "No, what's that?" He's like, "Oh, it's all covers they do. You'll really like it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so that's really cool." He goes, "When you get home, you need to download this album," because as I said, there's Napster. "Download the album, but more specifically, I need you to play So What. It is one of their best songs." He goes, "As soon as it starts, just blast it. You'll love it." For those who don't know what So What is a Misfits cover that has a lot of very, very suggestive topics and lines in it that I was unaware of until I blasted my stereo and James started saying these things out loud, and then I quickly dove for the remote and turned that down and plugged in headphones and freaked out on Ian the next day when I got to school. I was like, "You almost got me in so much goddamn trouble." Because, yeah, it is a very suggestive song that they will probably never play again, but it's still a fun song. For back in the day, it's not good now. PC-wise, it's not good now, but it was really funny back in the day. This album's very different, obviously. It's got very different covers from very different artists. You know, you go from Crash Course in Brain Surgery, which is a very thumping song, to Astronomy, which is a very slowed down. I love going for walks in the middle of the night and just listening to Astronomy. I think it's such a great song. Then you go into things like Overkill. You've got Turn the Page, Whiskey in a Jar, Die Die My Darling. Like, it's such a good album, and I feel like it flows very well with the song choices, but it still is held together with the Metallica brand behind it and the feel of Metallica. Yeah, I think it's a great album. I think it's a perfect spot as number 7. Favorite song to play is Whiskey in a Jar. I've loved that song since I first heard it. And it's hilarious because I don't drink, and I love that. It's two of my favorite songs of all time. Whiskey in the Jar and The Pot by Tool. I don't drink, I don't smoke pot, but I still love those songs. Who knew? Garage Inc. is number 7. Let's move up to number 6. Death Magnetic. This album is the first album that I was a full-fledged fan for. Now, as I said, I started liking Metallica in the 2000s. I started liking them because of Saint Anger. I knew of Metallica before, but Saint Anger was like my first, like, this is Metallica? Oh my God. And I became a fan. This, Death Magnetic, is my first album where I'm like, I'm a fan. I want to know everything about it. I want to know every song. I want to know every backstage interview about it. This was me being a fan. I feel like this album's underappreciated. I really feel like this one is underappreciated by Metallica fans. I feel like it's getting a little more love than it did in the past, but I feel like this deserves a lot more love than it gets. This, however, going back to what we talked about before with Hardwired and 72, this is the last album that I liked every song for, which is important because there was a time back in the day where I was like, no matter what Metallica did, I was going to love it. Every cover they've ever done, every song they ever did, I was like, Metallica's the greatest. They're never going to screw up. They screwed up a little bit. There are some points where I was like, I don't know. But Death Magnetic was the last one that I was like, okay, I like every one of these songs. This was Rob's first album, so you can definitely tell they're giving Rob a little bit of space and a little bit of, stuff to groove with. Suicide and Redemption is probably the one that you see his most influence in when it comes to that bass line at the beginning. But I'm glad that he gets a little better treatment than Jason did. We all know, if you're a Metallica fan, Jason Newsted was the one who came in after Cliff Burton. Metallica unfortunately did not treat him the best because they didn't grieve properly for Cliff, and Jason ended up leaving. So having this be Rob's first real album was good to see that they were giving Rob the spotlight of like, okay, let's see what you can do. Let's see what people think about it. And like I said, there's so many good songs on this from beginning to end. I loved every track on this song, and at Tempest, your great minds think alike, man. Bro, this album is so underrated. Also, their EP and Beyond Magnetic are also peak. Yep, 100%. I bought the collector's edition of this. I still have it in the other room. I have the casket box set. I bought Beyond Magnetic. I have the EP. The pack came with the demo disc that shows all the demo tracks for the songs. I listened to all of them. I loved it. Yeah, I think this is a great album. This was a great album, and I feel it is underrated. I feel like people hit that album that we're going to talk about shortly, and they just kind of fall off. But I feel like this is another one that was like, hey, they still have it, folks. Like, let's not have them dead. I happened to stumble across Beyond that last week, and I just blasted Hate Train. Oh, such a good song. Such a good song. Now I want to listen to it. Now I got to go listen to it after. But yeah, this is a great album. Day That Never Comes is probably my favorite. I love Day That Never Comes. Cyanide's also a great song. If you go way back on my YouTube channel, that is one of the videos that I did post of me playing Cyanide. That I think that's the only single Metallica song I did. I did do a compilation. But yeah, Cyanide's a fun song to play, but I think I've played it so much. I love Day That Never Comes. I think that's a great song. In fact, there is a line in that song that I've said to my wife multiple times. If I do get another tattoo, I'm going to get that. The song Day That Never Comes is basically about, I interpret it as spousal abuse. It's about the woman's perspective of, just stay down. The day never comes when you're able to see the light again. However, the second last verse, the line basically says, can't take it anymore. I'm going to splatter color upon this gray. And I know the song is about abuse, but as an artist, I take the line of I'm going to splatter color on this grave as an artistic sign, and I look at it that way. So I think of the world being gray, and as an artist, I want to splatter color on it and make the world brighter. So I have always thought of getting, I don't know, maybe here getting the word gray and getting like rainbow splatter on it. As I just thought that'd be a cool tattoo, and just that'll be a little inside Metallica tattoo without being, the Metallica logo or something like that. So yeah, I love this album. I really, really love this album. I've listened to it recently from cover to cover, and I think it still holds up, and I still think it needs way more respect than it gets. So we're at 6. We're at the halfway point. I feel like if I went any higher in this, I think I would get roasted. But I have to say, Saint Anger. Ooh, that got small. Saint Anger. is my number 5. All right, let's defend Saint Anger. Why is Saint Anger number 5 and not 12, as it is in probably many, many Metallica fans' lists? This was my first album. As I said, I knew of Metallica many, many years before. My friend Jason, who was a friend of my dad's and became a friend of mine, he would play it anytime we'd be out. If we'd be out in the truck, we'd be going somewhere, he would put on Enter Sandman, he would put on Sad But True, and I knew those songs, but I didn't know who Metallica was. I just knew they were good songs, they were radio songs. And then I remember getting a call from him saying the new Metallica album's out. And I went, who's Metallica? And he said, that's the Enter Sandman band. And I went, oh, them. Cool. When's it coming out? He's like, comes out today. I'm going to go get it. Meet me at the mall. And then we'll go back to your place and we'll listen to it. And I was like, yes, 100%. So we went to the mall, picked it up, came back, and we played it. And I was hooked. Absolutely hooked. Again, this was what I mentioned at the beginning of the show. This was the vacuum year for me. One of, where every music during that time period hit me in the chest and became a part of me. There are many different albums and different music, Motley Crue, later Kiss albums, etc. Those hit me and became a part of this is my music. This was also a time where I was going through a lot of mental health issues. I've talked about it before. I don't mind talking about it again. I used to have severe panic attacks. I used to be hospitalized for panic attacks. I went to the hospital many times because I just could not keep control of myself. The world back in the early 2000s was not as accepting of it as it was now. And I did not get the help I needed for it, so it lasted a lot longer than it probably should have or would have if it was today. When I heard this album, and because I became such a fan of this album, I wanted to know everything about it. And when I started to hear the lyrics and see the documentary, the Some Kind of Monster documentary, the making this album, it really hit me because you can tell from the beginning of this album, this is James Hetfield going through all of his decades of mental anguish, whatever you want to call it, and he's putting it out all into the music. And I get why that is not appealing to some people. I get why some people don't like the garage feeling of this album. However, again, as someone who was dealing with mental health issues at the time, that was the rawest music I had heard at that time, and it hit me like a fist, pun intended. The Unnamed Feeling, where he does that break of I can't think of it right now, but when he starts going, I hate, I love, and all those things, I'll be honest, there were many times when I was going through mental health issues that I was on the floor bawling listening to that, because that was exactly how I was feeling. And I had no way to express it, but that was the way I felt. And I just listened to that on repeat going, someone gets it. Someone knows exactly what I'm going through. And I broke so many drumsticks on that song. I broke so many skins on that song, just playing that song to death, because that song hit so hard to me. As I said, I understand that people are like, the snare bugs me, because if you don't know, with a snare drum on the drums, the main drum has little wires underneath that gives you that sound that you love. Lars, for some reason, I still don't know why, turned that snare off so it has more of a thud sound, and it sounds almost like a trash can at points. A lot of people don't like that because it is very like dunk 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 sound. Again, I know I have rose-colored glasses for this. I love this album, and it does not bother me. When it comes to Bob Rock on bass, because as I said, this is a space in between Jason and Rob. Rob Trujillo came in for the tour. He is not playing on this album. It is Bob Rock playing. I think he does a fine job. I think there was so much room in this album of just how long it took to make. It was fine putting him in there. I don't think they needed, a seasoned veteran to be on this album. But overall, I get why people don't like this album. It's my friggin' list, though. It's a lot higher than probably others would say, and I'm perfectly fine with the feedback. I love this album, and I will defend this album mainly because it hit me in a way that no other album did. Best song to play, as I said, I loved playing Unnamed Feeling so many times when I was younger. I love playing Sweet Amber. I think that's such a fun song to play. Just the rhythm of it, the tempo, the up and down. I like it. It's a fun song to play. Frantic and Saint Anger are just pretty much like a train just going down a track. I like something that's got a little bit of change to it. It's true, you don't really appreciate an album until you feel what the songs are saying, Tempest said. Exactly. And I get why people hate this album. I get it. I'm not oblivious to it. But to me, this album means something more. And that's why everybody loves different albums. So we're gone from number 5. Let's jump to number 4. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but we do have some more albums to go through, some important ones. Number 4, And Justice for All. What can I say bad about this album? I mean, the artwork alone is incredible. I didn't have many Metallica posters growing up, but my mom picked this up for me in a very large poster mounted on board, and I love that thing, and I still have it at my mom's place. It is such a cool visual. I've debated on doing a cosplay of this because I think it'd be so dope doing something like this. This is an album I slept on. This was the one album that I was like, I don't know about this one. When I first started, this was the one I never played, and I regret it because it's a good album. It's a very, very good album. I do believe, however, there are some songs that are too long. I do feel like it gets a little daunting on some songs. Freight End of Sanity, Live Is to Die, and I know Live Is to Die is the tribute to Cliff, and I understand the importance of that. There are some songs that are a little too long. The biggest critique of this album is the bass. The story, for those who don't know, Jason Newsted had just joined the band after Cliff passed away, and when they mixed this album and they put the levels of like how high are the drums, how high are the guitars and bass, or guitars and drums are up here, bass is way down here. You can barely hear it on the album, which sucks because Jason did such a good job, and people have now reformatted the album on YouTube where you can now hear more of the bass, and it sounds really good, and it sucks that he doesn't hear it on the actual album. Tempest said, what bass? Yeah, I get it, and that's the biggest. This was a technical show off for them. I really feel like this was them trying to just be like, we're going to be the most technically crazy band. We're going to write 9-minute songs and we're just going to go all out. I appreciate it. I do feel like it's a little overkill though. I do feel like after a point, they're like, okay, can we cut back to like a 4-minute song and not all of them be 7 minutes? But that's a personal gripe. I get it. Some people live and die by this album. Tempest in chat says that's my number 1, and I completely understand why. It's just not for me. It's not my favorite, but I do greatly appreciate this album. And as he said in chat, and I agree, the most fun song to play is Blackened. I love playing Blackened. 1 is fun, but 1 is overplayed. You'll notice that if you watch any of my other music reviews, I try and pick the songs that aren't overplayed because I just get tired of hearing them so much. Blackened is still fun to play after all these years. Now we have 3 albums left, and if you're a Metallica fan, you're going, one of these things just doesn't belong here in your top 3. And again, it's my list. I can pick whatever order. So you're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to wait and see what number 3 is. Number 3 is Master of Puppets. Master of Puppets is my number 3. This album, and especially with the new life it's received because of the Stranger Things influence, I am so happy people are finally understanding how great this album is. And I'm not saying that, Metallica fans didn't. Metallica fans and metal fans were well aware of it. I mean the general public now. Like, it was one thing back in the day where you could be like, Metallica, and they'll be like, nothing else matters. And you're like, they have other songs. Now I'm like, Master of Puppets. And they're like, yeah, I know that song. That's cool that people understand that Master of Puppets is a great album and has now gotten that second life. Technically speaking, I think this is their best. It's not my favorite, but from a technical standpoint, when it comes to playing, when it comes to arrangement, when it comes to mixing, when it comes to everything about the technical side of an album, it's hard to say that this isn't their number one. This is everything hit 100% for them. The artwork alone, Don Brodigan, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. Also did the Dr. Feelgood for Motley Crue, did Razor's Edge for AC/DC, Among the Living for Anthrax. Amazing artwork. Like, it's hard. Like, you see any of these images, you see the gravestones, you see the hands, you see the logo alone. Those are all iconic. Like, you put just one of those on there, most people are like, oh, it's a Master of Puppets album. I know exactly what that is. Yeah, like, it's I don't know what else to say. Like, every song on this is good. Battery's great. Master's great. Disposable Heroes is great. Like, every song is great on this album. It's kind of hard to say it's not a great album. Best song to play, Disposable Heroes. I've fallen in love with that song recently. And I don't mean recently like the past week. I mean recently like the past couple years. Like, I like this album, but then over the past few years, I've been like, I really want to sit down and listen to this album and really, like, dig into it. I love Disposable Heroes. I think that's one of the most fun songs to play recently. I've tried to learn a couple more of those deep songs on Justice, and it's just like, I'm 37, my shoulders and wrists can only take so much. Disposable Heroes, I'm like, it's close enough. I feel like that's good enough. I'm happy with that. But yeah, Master of Puppets, like, yeah, it's such a great album. Number 2, I mean, similar to most of these lists, I think you can kind of, once we get to a certain point in the list, you can kind of go like, if this isn't number 1, then what the hell is he talking about? I think we can kind of understand which one number 1 is. So let's just go to number 2. I love this album. And again, same with Anger, same with Reload. I get why people are like, ugh, it's not what Metallica should be. Guess what, folks? Metallica's whatever Metallica wants. And this album, I'm similar to Death Magnetic. I feel like this album was slept on so much. And now that they've re-released it in the giant box set, everybody's like, load. And I'm like, boy, if I told you that 3 years ago, you would have laughed in my face. I know so many Metallica fans were just like, ugh, like Load and Reload. Ugh, it's not Justice. And now they're all like, got my $500 box set. And I'm like, shut up. I've loved this album since I first heard it. This is a departure from Metallica. I will completely agree with most people's criticism of that. This is a more country, modern metal rock version of Metallica. This is not like the Metallica traditionally is. And I love that. I love that this is a different dynamic. I love that this is them basically going, we're going to do something completely different than what people are expecting. I love when artists do that. It might not land. Lulu's a great example of that. But I still appreciate them doing that. And I think this is a great alternative to the Black Album, which you can kind of tell is going to be the next one on the list. The artwork alone, I think, is hilarious. I love explaining it to people. I'm not going to explain it to you guys. I'm going to let you guys Google what it is. It is exactly what the title is. But yeah, it's such a fun album. I really enjoy the different dynamics on it. I love the slowdowns on some of the songs, but then you've got Ate My Bitch at the beginning. It's a complete different thing different album than Black, and I think it's great. I think they did a killer job on this. I also love playing a lot of this album. Like, Ain't My Bitch is one of the songs that I learned first. That is actually, Ain't My Bitch is probably the first song I ever learned on drums. When I really became a fan, I became a fan of Metallica, and I bought the Cunning Stunts DVD. Watch how you say that. And it's basically a live show. And on the DVD, there were a couple songs that had multiple camera angles. If you knew back in the day, back in DVDs were thing, you could have multiple camera angles on certain things. Different DVDs kind of took advantage of that. Well, this one, there were 5 different camera angles. There was one that was, the normal thing of going from member to member, but then there were different camera angles, and each camera angle focused on one member the whole song. Which, if you're a kid who's wanting to learn how to play drums, you just sit there and watch Lars on repeat. You figure out what his motions are, and you figure out, oh, that's what this sounds like. This is what this sounds like. I can play this. And I did that, and I learned Ain't My Bitch, I learned Wherever I May Roam, and a couple other songs from that show. But this was the first one that I loved, and I played it to death, and I still love it, but it's not my favorite anymore. I still love King Nothing. I was so happy to hear that in Toronto. Hero of the Day is another amazing song off this album. That video is really fun too. The old school Western parody. But yeah, I love this album. I completely understand why people are like, this shouldn't be number 2. It should be like Master and Justice. And I get that. I love this album personally. I think it's a great album, and I think they did a great job on it. Lastly, before I get you guys out of here, and if this wasn't number 1, I'm sorry. The Black Album is their best. Overall, it's their best album. It's got so many classic songs on there. And I get when there's hardcore fans who are like, it's not, Justice is their best one. Guys, I get if you want to keep that version of Metallica and you wished everything was just speed metal and thrash metal. I get it. But I'm sorry, they would not be the band they are without this album. They would not be the band they are without Enter Sandman, without Sad But True, without Nothing Else Matters. Like, you wouldn't have the band you would have today. They might not even be around anymore if it wasn't for that. So this is number 1. It's the obvious one. Like, Enter Sandman, like, everybody in the world knows Enter Sandman at this point. Everybody knows Nothing Else Matters at this point. Like, behind my monitor, you can't see. For my wedding, my wife told me to go down to Staples and pick something up. I didn't know what it was. My wife got me a poster made up for our wedding that we had displayed, and it says, it's the Nothing Else Matters. Trust I seek, and I will find every day something new. Nothing else matters. Like, and she knew that I was a big Metallica fan, obviously, and she did that because she goes, "Oh, I know how much that means to you, and I know that relates to you." So it's yeah, this is number 1. Tempest said, I think it's just overplayed nowadays, and I agree. You know what? I will agree with you 100% on that one. I still love the deep cuts on this album too. Like, I love Wolf. I love Misery. Misery is so good. Jason on that song is incredible. God That Failed is so good too. And I get Nothing Else Matters is overplayed. Michael K., The Black was the first worst album. And I get it. I completely understand that there is a fan base that is like, Kill to Justice, nothing else happens after that. I completely understand that. But this album made them the Metallica they are now and put them as the biggest band in the world. And as I said, I've seen bands like, Megadeth to a point where you can stay that genre 100%, but you're never going to be as successful. And I'll bring it back before we duck out of here to cosplay. I'm a cosplayer, and if I just did cosplay content, if I just did podcast on cosplay, if all my social media was just cosplay, that's great because I'm a cosplayer and I can talk about it. But the people that are in, like, this is the world population. The people that are interested in anything cosplay is about this big. The people who want to know more about cosplay is about that big. And the people who want to know what I have to talk about cosplay is about that big. But if I want to talk about something like Metallica, I can talk about to this many people. And they might be interested. And then the people who want to hear about what I did at a show is about this. And the people that want to hear about my top 10 albums or top 12 albums is about this big. You have to deliver to more people than just, thrash metal. And I love thrash metal. I love Megadeth. I love Anthrax. I love Testament. I love all those guys. But I understand that you have to evolve if you want to be the biggest band in the world. And they've said 100 times that's what they want to do, was be the biggest band in the world. So I still say it's number one. No matter what people say, they can't deny it's a classic. Exactly. 100%. You got to do a Pantera tier list. Ooh, that might get a little bit of hate. Yeah, maybe we'll do Pantera one day. But that's it, folks. We went from 12 to 1. I think we all kind of assumed we knew what number 1 would probably be. I greatly appreciate you all sticking around. I know we went a little bit later than we usually do. It means a lot. If you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, it means a bunch that you are sticking around. Next week, we're going to have a guest here. Wow, that really made my face super freaking bright. Didn't mean to do that. That blew my face out so much. Next week, we're going to have a guest on the show. We are going to have my buddy Freakish Workshop on here. We are going to talk about properties that should never have a remake, sequel, or reboot. We are going to go through, I've got movies. We actually haven't talked about it, so I got to message him about it because we haven't really discussed if it's video games, movies, or whatever. But I have movies. We're going to talk about properties that should not be rebooted. These may be properties and stuff that have a sequel or something like that, but they shouldn't be anymore. They're done. No more. Nothing. So that'll be next week. Freakish Workshop will be joining us. The week after that, we're going to be talking about Comic-Con etiquette, what to do and what not to do, because we are going to be then going into Fan Expo Canada 2024. I appreciate you guys sticking around. It means a lot to me. If you can, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, and I will talk to you very soon. Have a good night, folks. We'll see you soon. Bye, guys. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.